All right, let's jump right in. Today, we're going to dig into this really powerful, kind of paradoxical idea that you can trace all the way from Roman emperors to modern day athletes. It's a totally different way of looking at our work, our goals, and, well, our lives. So, let's get into it.
And it really all starts here with the Roman Emperor Marcus Aurelius. Almost 2,000 years ago, he wrote that the fruit of life, the whole point of it all, isn't about success or money or even avoiding pain. Nope, it's about your character and what you do for other people. And you'll notice he doesn't say a single word about outcomes, results, or rewards. And yeah, that immediately brings up the big question, right? The one that frames this entire explainer. We live in a world that is obsessed with results, metrics, KPIs, you name it. So how can you just ignore all that? This ancient advice seems to fly in the face of everything we're taught. So what's really going on here? Okay, first up, section 1, an emperor's strange advice. The secret to this whole thing is wrapped up in this really fascinating paradox. It goes like this. The more humbly you prepare for something, the more freely you can actually perform. And weirdly enough, the less you have to worry about how it all turns out. So here's the core idea, and it's this beautiful metaphor. Don't waste your energy fixating on the fruit, the harvest, the final outcome that you can't actually control. Instead, you pour all of that energy into the ground beneath your feet. That's your character, your preparation, your daily systems. And this isn't about being passive at all. It's about being incredibly precise and laser-focused with your effort. So let's really break down this first piece of the puzzle, section 2. Prepare humble, perform confident. Because the way these two ideas work together is probably not what you think. And honestly, you can't find a better illustration of this than Kobe Bryant. His work ethic was just legendary, right? He prepared for games like he had zero natural talent, just drilling the fundamentals over and over again. But then, the second he stepped onto the court, he performed with this unshakable confidence of the absolute best player in the world. He just got that there were two different mindsets for two totally different arenas. And look at how this breaks down. It's so clear. Preparation, that's the domain of reality. That's where humility is your superpower. It's what allows you to ask the hard questions and face what you don't know. But in the arena, during the actual performance, that very same humility becomes sabotage. It's your kryptonite. The time for second guessing is long gone. You just have to act with what you've got. And this is why shortcuts are such a trap. As the author Robert Greene says, always looking for a shortcut makes you completely unsuited for mastery. Because a shortcut is just an attempt to get that arena-level confidence without doing any of the humble work in the prep room. It's trying to get the fruit without ever getting your hands dirty and tending the ground. All right, so we've covered the whole prep versus performance thing. Now for section 3, actions with invisible ripples. And this is the second part of the idea, and maybe the one that's a little bit tougher to wrap your head around, which is letting go of the need to see the results of everything you do. I mean, let's be real. Our entire culture is basically built on this idea. We want the analytics. We want to track our progress. We want to see a clear return on investment for everything we do. Because if you can't measure it, well, did it even really happen? And then you get hit with this bombshell of a quote from the writer John Ruskin. He basically argues that if your actions have consequences that are immediately and completely visible to you, they were probably pretty small actions to begin with. The truly important things, the great deeds, they have remote consequences, ripples that we will never ever see land. Think about it like this. The patience you show a kid today might get passed on to their own child, someone you will never meet. The honesty you show when you think no one is watching, that could set a new standard for a quiet observer who then applies it in their own life. These are the invisible ripples, and that might be the truest measure of our impact. So that brings us to the big question. If we're not supposed to be motivated by results, what in the world is supposed to keep us going? Well, section 4, the engine, is all about the two things that do, desire and systems. This comes from a great little parable by Anthony DeMello. A spiritual master holds his student's head underwater. When the student finally bursts to the surface, gasping for air, the master says, "When you want enlightenment as desperately as you just wanted that breath, you'll find it." It's about the difference between a mild preference for something and an urgent, organizing desire that just pushes everything else aside. But look, desire isn't enough on its own. You need systems. The strength coach Dan John has a great name for them: shark habits. A shark sees something, it takes one bite, and it's done. It's immediate and final. So when an email comes in, you answer it right then. When a task pops into your head, you just do it. The goal here isn't just about being efficient. It's about eliminating that mental tax of all the decisions we put off, the ones that create that constant low-level clutter in our heads. And this chart really just illustrates perfectly why those systems are so important. So, according to Dan John's Calculus for Longevity, about 40% of how long and how well you live comes down to your lifestyle and your habits. That 40%, that is the ground. That's your area of influence. It's the space where those shark habits and that daily preparation make all the difference in the world. Okay, so let's tie all these threads together. Our final section, number 5, the only real security. If you're not supposed to be chasing outcomes, where do we find any sense of stability in this world?
And Tony Robbins just nails it here. Real security, it's not found in some guaranteed result. It's not out there in the harvest. It's an internal state. It's the confidence that comes from knowing that day in and day out, you are doing the work, you are tending the ground, you are getting better.
And that's really the whole takeaway here. This way of thinking isn't saying the results don't matter or that the fruit isn't real. Of course it's real. But it's a powerful reminder of where it actually comes from. It grows from the ground you cultivate, from the character you build, and the preparation you do. Not from just staring up at the sky and wanting it really, really badly. So that just leaves us with one final personal question. Forget about the harvest you're hoping for tomorrow or next week or next year. Instead, just ask yourself this. What small patch of ground, what habit, what skill, what little act of character will you tend to today?